I'm back. It's wonderful to be here. My first time in Minnesota. I've been in 43 states, so this makes 44. So I'm excited about that. I appreciate Peggy in inviting me. She put a lot of beautiful energy in my new book called Lasting Impressions, which is what I'd like to talk a little bit about today. Lasting Impressions is a celebration of our loved ones in spirit, and they encouraged me to present this book through a series of stories. And I'm going to share some stories with you this morning. But before I get started, has everyone had a reading before? How many people have had a reading before, had the experience of communion with a loved one? It's a beautiful experience, it's a healing experience. One of my greatest lessons I learned in graduate school didn't come from the laboratory where I was doing DNA research. It came through a volunteer experience that we had to do as grad students. In my experience is I sat with terminally ill children and played games with them, played board games. My greatest teacher in grad school was a little girl named Elizabeth. She was 9 years old. She was living with leukemia, and we had the great experience to play several board games over the course of a couple months. And as we played Candyland, her favorite, which she always beat me at, she asked some really important questions. And they were tougher than the ones I got at my thesis. And the question she asked is, she said, "Geoff, why are people so sad when they see me? Why are they afraid of me?" You know, it was easier talking to my test tubes than it was with her, but she was fearful of her parents and her little brother. They were going to be sad. She knew she was going to go to heaven and dance with Grandpa. She was convinced, and she had these visions, and they were beautiful. And I thought, coming up with a little script to talk to her about. And the next visit, we actually had played the game of life, which was very synchronistic. And she asked the question, how are my parents going to know I'm going to be okay when I cross over? And I thought, that question I can help you with. I said, there's people that can communicate. And I said, I do that type of work. And she said, well, I hope you'll be a voice to help we children so our parents will be okay. The next visit I went to see her, she wasn't here any longer, and the nurse told me that she had made her transition. And it was that I learned in the midst of grad school, that it was a calling, it was a message to be a voice for those beautiful children. And the first book that I wrote is Hope for Parents Who've Lost Children, to help them understand, to celebrate the connection they've had with their child. So that really opened the door to mediumship. And from that point on, although I worked in higher ed for 20 years, I did readings on the side. And Spirit always has something important to say. And the importance of mediumship is really to demonstrate the principles of natural law. And the most important law is that life is continual, that your consciousness survives the death of your physical body, and that it's always present and always there. So during the course of 25 years of doing readings, Spirit has taught me some really valuable lessons that were reinforced in the many books I read by Edgar Cayce and Eckhart Tolle and so forth. And one being that we belong to a soul family. And what that means is that you have like vibrational souls that are working on similar things. And just like the law of vibration says, or the law of magnetism, like attracts like. And that you tend to hang out together in clusters. And it's a group effort. As you evolve, they evolve, and as they evolve, you evolve. And one important thing they present in readings often is they let us know that we often look at them as being spirit guides, but we're really guides to them, because they can feel us and they can hear us. And by the choices and decisions we make, it's very impactful in the evolution of their soul. And the kids were very important in teaching me this early on, that when parents were in tremendous grief and sorrow and sadness, they were preventing the evolution of the child to let go, to let their spirit be free so that they can grow and play. And they wanted to remember them more from the perspective of all the good that the parent had done and all the great things they had done. And it's the simple things. It's the hot chocolate on the porch watching the shooting stars. It wasn't the trip to Disney that many times the kids would bring through in the readings. Another important lesson that Spirit has taught is that you take your consciousness with you. So if you don't resolve things here, then you're going to work on it on the other side. So they're not just sitting around being peeping toms and watching you in your day-to-day life. They're doing their work. They're helping in the evolution. But they're sending you impressions telepathically. They're letting you know which way might be a better way to turn in your life. They give direction, they give encouragement, they give inspiration. You just have to be open to listen. And one important lesson I used to teach my college students was put your electronic stuff away for a while and just sit in silence. The messages you'll get will just be phenomenal. Really and truly, no one needs a medium because you have the capability of connecting on your own. Through the experience of life, we create karma. And karma is referred to often as the law of love. And loved ones come through often to remind you of your karma. Karma is not about judgment. There's not bad karma and there's not good karma. Karma just is. And karma is so beautiful and precise in demonstrating to you a reaction according to a response you've done. It does so for the reason that you have the remote control in your hand and you can change the station if it's not serving you. And often your loved ones will come through in spirit and remind you that you don't have to continue in that energetic cycle, that you can let it go and you can be free. Oftentimes, people ask questions about different ways people pass and cross. I was raised Catholic. I was an altar boy. My parents were convinced I was going to be a priest, but I knew I wanted to find a higher calling, but I didn't find it specifically in that religion. There were some good foundational things I learned. But one of the things I ran into in grade school, in second grade, we used to get to leave school to go to catechism, and we were making these amazing dinosaur shoebox structures, and I love dinosaurs. And I was so sad I had to leave my dinosaurs to go to catechism to Sister Catherine. Sister Catherine, on the day we were doing dinosaurs, was talking about Adam and Eve. And so my inquisitive nature raised my hand and I said, where did the dinosaurs fit in? She didn't like that question. She thought I was being a radical. And she basically said, Satan put fossils on the earth to make people non-believers. And I said, I don't believe that. So I got to stand in the corner the rest of the time. But it was those times in the corner that were meaningful to me. I was trying to figure out, how does religion and science fit together? I was trying in my mind to rationalize all this. But again, it's through the gift of mediumship. Mediumship has taught me great things. People in the spiritual realm have really important things and inspirational things and a refreshed perspective. The Native American call it the hawk's perspective. They see things from above, and they can give some really great insight into your day-to-day life. Some of the more difficult readings, the challenging ones, have been where an individual has taken their own life. And in catechism, I was taught about a place called purgatory, which never felt really right to me, and a place called hell. And I often would question the teachers about hell and what's the difference between hell and here. And because there was a lot of guilt and shame and so forth. And so what Spirit has taught me is that, heaven and hell are a state of consciousness. They're a state of awareness. And when someone takes their life, there's not a waiting room. There's not a place they go. They go to the world of spirit and they process their actions, and they have to feel all the karma they created around every action, and including that final action in that lifetime. But there's not a place to be afraid of. It's a place to grow, and there's other spirits there to help the individuals. And they often want to come through in a reading to remind their loved ones that there was a sense of shame while they're here, but they release that. It stays with the ego body when it's here. As I progressed through school, one of my aha moments before I got to grad school with Elizabeth was in anatomy class. I took an anatomy class and we dissected a human cadaver. And to me it was amazing to have the brain in my hand and the heart in my hand. And then it got me thinking, where's the soul? Where's this body has all the chemistry it needs to sustain life. Where is that energy force? And again, Spirit taught me a lot about energy and the human energy field. And that's something I've been really passionate about. And that was my third book, which is on the chakras. And the workshop today is going to be about chakras because I've learned how we are energy beings. And it makes so much more sense when you understand yourself from that perspective. You're an open system, and you have energy exchange with your environment and those around you. But also, you rule one kingdom. You control one thing, and that is your energy field. You allow certain people to participate with you in that energy field. You choose to be in the energy of certain situations, like when you walk into a place like this, there's great peace. You could be at a bar drinking some beers and watching a football game. That has a little different vibration. But you choose the energy that's around you, and you manage the energy of this field. And it's so important because it relates to the perspective you have in life, and your perspective is going to relate to the action that you have in your life, and that's going to relate to karma, which gets to all the natural laws. So it's beautiful to be in a sense of awareness. And once I worked on that body and realized that there's something greater, and I knew it on some level, but to actually have the physical experience was really important. I remember talking with all my friends after we did the dissection, and how creeped out they were because they said, do you think this lady's going to follow us home, their spirit? Because we cut her up pretty good today. But again, Spirit lets us know that they're not so concerned with their physicalness. That's not important. What's important is the energetic interactions that they have while they're here. That's the energy's memory, and that's the energy of their soul. The other thing that Spirit often teaches us is that there's a continuous cycle of lifetimes, and we call that reincarnation. And the master aspect of yourself, the I am presence, is your soul. And aspects of your soul break off, we call that spirit, and they come to this great costume party on the planet Earth in this meat suit. So your spirit chose this suit, this costume. You know, some costumes are witches, some are queens and princesses. But it's the energy of that costume that's going to help you manifest the karma that you're going to work through in this lifetime. But once you're done with this costume, you're going to come back and wear another costume and another costume and another costume. And again, you tend to do this so that you get multiple perspectives of yourself. And in the evolution of the progression of your soul, you align more with Source. And when you get to a place that's called zero karma, which I believe Jesus and Buddha were able to do, there's no longer a need to come back to the physical plane. So many times when people come to a reading, they're like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to do this again. Well, you don't have to do it again. In fact, all you have to do is change your perspective about it. You're going to do it from a different perspective. And we're very brave spirits to come and have this experience, because this is a heavy place. This is the plane of emotions, and we get to play with all different types of emotions while we're here. But it's having that experience with those emotions helps us to remember the essence of who we are, and that is Source, that we are that I am presence. And we get the unique opportunity to share that experience with those that are here still in the physical plane and those that have crossed into the spiritual plane. So just know your network, your social network goes beyond Facebook and Instagram and so forth. You have a great network, your ancestors, your loved ones that are with you from the higher realms. And they're always willing to share insight, direction, by just sitting in silence. Spend a moment and sit in silence, and you'll feel their presence. The voice that you often hear is your ego, but the more important voice is that I am presence. That's your intuition. And you can feel the difference between the vibrations, but take some time and develop a dialogue with your higher self. It's been through every lifetime with you. It knows everything about you. It knows all your tricks. It knows all your hardships. It knows all your joys. And your loved ones in spirit will help you make that connection in that regard. So I appreciate the opportunity to share some insights that I've learned from spirit, and I look forward to talking to you after the service if anyone has any questions. Have a blessed morning. Namaste.